begs a much larger question. And that is, why is public education under attack? Why should we have to fight so hard for something, public education, that should be a given, that we should be able to take for granted? For me, this is the key question. How did we get to this point? And perhaps even more importantly, how can we move forward from this point? And so that's what I want to talk to you about this afternoon. It's not an entirely happy story, but I promise that it will have an optimistic, if not a happy ending. But I do think we have to, I think it's important and I think it's empowering to understand the world as it is, not to pretend it's otherwise. And so for the next 40 minutes, I'll be talking a little bit about that world. Now, for me, it all starts with the corporation, and let me explain how. In my book and film, The Corporation, and in the recent book that was mentioned, Childhood Under Siege, I argue that corporations as institutions are deliberately designed and enabled, indeed required by the law, to be fundamentally socially irresponsible. And in my book, The Corporation, I was trying to find an apt and accurate and sort of cool-headed metaphor or analogy, and the best I could come up with was that the corporation as an institution functions kind of like a human psychopath. So at the heart of corporate law, and the reason for this is at the heart of corporate law, the fundamental imperative is that managers and directors of companies, in every decision they make, in every action they take, they always have to put the self-interest of the corporation first, which is kind of what psychopaths do. They always put their own self-interest first, to the point where it's pathological. And in reality, what I argue in my two books is that it is simply impossible for corporations, in terms of their institutional makeups, in terms of their institutional mandates, to be genuinely socially responsible, to genuinely care about the public interest. But, and here's where I think the problems begin for public education and where they begin for society as a whole. The problem today is that we as a society, especially our government, seem to be forgetting, losing sight of the true nature, the true reality of the corporation. More and more we, and when I say we, I don't really mean you guys because you know better than this, but we, the sort of collective society and our governments, are being seduced into a comfortable though profoundly misconceived belief that corporations can genuinely care, that they can be trusted to deliver key public services such as education, and even to take the lead in solving the world's problems. More and more, we're being told today that a clean environment, social justice, an educated population, that the good society will be brought to us not by public institutions, not by democratic institutions, but by Nike, by Coca-Cola, by Microsoft. And in fact, it's no coincidence that the CEOs of these three companies, along with 11 others, recently got together at the Davos World Economic Forum and made a declaration. They declared that the world's corporations were now poised to, indeed obliged, to assume the role of leadership on the world's most pressing issues.